Hey guys, it's Natalia and welcome back to another Fashion Design 101 episode. If you're new here, hi, I'm Natalia. I graduated from FIT. I'm a sustainable fashion designer and I want to share all my fashion design knowledge with you guys. Today is probably one of the most long-awaited videos and it's the first pattern making video in the series. Today we're going to be making some basic torso pattern slopers. If you're unfamiliar with the term slopers versus pattern, basically slopers are the outline of patterns. These do not contain seam allowances, so these you can use to create more patterns and use them almost as like a stencil in a sense, but once you add seam allowance is when it's considered a pattern, so that's why we're going to call them slopers. I have them on oak tag, which is what this paper is called. I'm going to have this paper and the pattern paper I use linked down below for you guys to buy if you want to use what I have, but you can obviously use whatever you want. You can use cardboard, you can use cardstock, you can use wrapping paper for patterns, you can use whatever you want. It doesn't really matter, but these are the tools that I like to use. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. So we're going to start off by marking all of our main lines, so it'll be our hip line, waistline, bust line, and then shoulder line. So at the bottom of my paper, I'm going to make a straight line that's going to be my hip line. Next, take your hip to waist measurement, which for me was 9 inches, mark that and create a parallel line for your waist. Next, take your waist to chest measurement, which for me was 7, and mark that. And again, make a parallel line all the way through. And lastly, take your chest to neck measurement, which for me was 10, and mark that and make a parallel line. Next, we're going to take our apex level, which for me was 6.5, divide that by 2 to figure out where your apex would be on one side, which for me would be at the 3¼ inch mark. So I'm going to mark that right here as the apex. We're going to be adding a dart to the waist to make sure that this fits properly. So we're going to bring down the apex level line perpendicular all the way down to make sure that we know where our dart line is going to be. Next, let's figure out our waist measurement. So you're going to take your waist divided by 4, which for me is 24 divided by 4. So I get 6 inches. Then we're going to add an inch to that for our dart. So I get 7. Then we're going to add 1/4 of an inch of ease. So I get 7¼ inches. So that is what I'm going to mark. Then on our dart line here, we're going to measure out 1/2 inch from one side and 1/2 inch on the other to create our 1-inch dart. Next, we're going to figure out our hip line. So take your hip measurement divided by 4. So for me, it's 35 divided by 4, which gives me 8¾ And then we're going to add 1/4 for ease. So I get 9 inches. I'm going to measure that and mark it. As far as the length of our dart, you don't want it to go all the way down and all the way up from the apex to the hip. You want it to be 2 inches above the hip line. So mark 2 inches from the hip line up on that line. And then from the apex, you're going to want to mark 1 inch down. So now you have all 4 points of your dart and you're going to want to start connecting all of the lines. We're going to put these together, these together, these together, and these together to create our full-on dart here. Next, let's figure out our chest. So I have a chest measurement of 32. We're going to divide that by 4 to get 8, add 1/4 of an inch of ease, and I get 8¼ So that is what I'm going to mark. Next, let's talk about our neckline. As a general rule, it's kind of a 3x3 kind of deal, but again, you can also measure yourself to make sure that that fits your measurements. The 3x3 does fit mine, so we're gonna basically create a 3x3 square up here. So you're gonna go 3 inches in on the shoulder line up here, and then you're gonna go 3 inches down. And that's gonna give you your shoulder measurement and where your neckline should end, and then we're going to fix that line in a little bit. Next, we're gonna wanna figure out our shoulders. So you're gonna take 5 inches out from the neck point that we marked just now. And then you're gonna go 1 inch down because our shoulders are on a slant. So then you're gonna connect those 2 points to create your shoulder line. Next, we're gonna drop that point perpendicular all the way down to the chest line. Next, we're gonna take our waist to armhole measurement and we're gonna measure that up from the waist. So for me, that was 9 inches. So I'm gonna bring it up to mark where that would be, just so I know where my armhole should end. And I'm gonna extend that line just a little bit. So I'm gonna bring up the line that we originally created for our chest measurement right here, which is really close to our shoulder line up here. I'm going to bring that up. Usually we wanna measure out 1/2 inch of ease for the armhole because it is an area where we move around a lot, so put that there. And now we can start to connect our line. So from waist to that measurement that we just created, we can create a straight line. Then from waist to hip, you want to use a curved line because our hips are obviously curved. And for our neckline, you want to use a curve like this and make sure to hit both of the points that we created earlier. And lastly, we're going to create our armhole with the same curved ruler as well, making sure to hit both of the points that we have created for the armhole. And that is our finished front torso. Now moving on to the back side of the torso, we're actually going to use the same lines we created, and I'm just gonna extend them out further so that we can make the back not too close to the front over here. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave a sufficient amount of space and make my center back line. So we're gonna kind of do the same thing as we did on the front, just a little bit different. So let's figure out our waist measurement, which like the front, it is just the waist divided by 4 plus 1 inch for the dart plus 1/4 of an inch of ease. So again, it is gonna be 7 1/4 inches for me on here, and I'm going to mark that. Next for the hip, we're gonna do the same thing. Hip divided by 4 plus 1/4 of an inch, which for me would be 8 3/4 plus 1/4, so that would be 9 inches. Next, we're gonna do the chest measurement, which I realized I had not brought over the line yet, but we're gonna do chest divided by 4 plus 1/4, so for me would be 32 divided by 4, which is 8 plus 1/4 is 8 1/4. So we're going to go ahead and mark that, and we're gonna bring that line up perpendicular. Next for the back neck, it is a little bit different than the front. We're gonna go down 1 inch and over 3. And those are the 2 points we're gonna use to create our curve in a little bit. So because we don't have an apex on our back, obviously, to figure out where our dart should be, you can kind of guesstimate where you want it to be according to the princess lines of your body. This is a lot easier to find on a mannequin that actually has princess lines, but for me, I'm just gonna do it like 2.5 inches inward. So I'm gonna mark 2.5 inches on the waist, and then I'm going to make that a perpendicular line all the way through. The dart is again gonna be 1 inch, so you wanna do 1/2 inch on either side of that line. And then on the back, it's a little bit different, and you actually wanna go 1 inch above the apex level for the end of your dart, but at the bottom, you do still want it to be 2 inches from the hip. So go ahead and connect all of those lines. And now you have your dart. So let's go back up here to do the shoulder. Like the front side, we're gonna go out 5 inches and downward 1. That would leave me with a shoulder point right here, and we're going to go ahead and connect that to the shoulder point we had up above. And we're gonna bring that line down perpendicularly. You wanna go 1/2 inch out from the chest line that we had earlier to create the point of the armhole. And now we can start connecting that armhole point to the waist point, and the waist to the hip, making sure that it is the same curve that we used earlier. And we're gonna do our armhole. And then you want a slight curve for the neck at the top as well. So here are your finished pattern drafts. I recommend taking these drafts and putting them onto thicker piece of paper. I like to use oak tag and then use those as pattern slopers. Do keep in mind that these do not have seam allowance, so when you are actually making something, you do have to add the 1/2 inch of seam allowance or however much you want to add to it to make sure it fits correctly, otherwise it will be too small. So I'm gonna go ahead and transfer this over and show you guys the finished results. So now we've gone from this to this, and this is a lot easier to work with. And now you can use these, adjust them, and make new fun patterns with whatever you want, but these serve as a really good base. An extra little tip is to take a pin and make little holes where the dart marks are. So it would be here, on the 2 marks up here, and up at the top. So you can then take your pencil when you're tracing this pattern out and put it in there and mark where all of your dart points are. So that is it for today's video. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. It helps me out so much. And comment down below what other videos you guys want to see from me. I do plan on doing other pattern making videos as far as like pants and skirts go, and how to pattern grade and how to alter patterns and such. So I will be doing those eventually, but let me know specifically what you guys want to see, and I'll be sure to add that to my list. And of course, subscribe if you're not already subscribed so you get notified every time I upload a new video, because there's so much great content coming to you guys with sewing and fashion design, and I'm super excited about it all. So please subscribe if you haven't already. And that is it, so I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!